Good evening, Peter.
Hi, good evening. Good evening. It's good to be with you.
Thanks for coming, Peter. So tell us, what is your take of all that's been happening over the last few days?
Yeah, I mean, the election is interesting. Elections are always interesting. I think that this is one in which the expected turnout, the expected outcome is pretty much well known. The constituency is the second strongest nationally for the Barbados Labour Party, and the presumption is that the BLP will hold on to it. Certainly for me as an analyst, what I'm looking at to see is voter turnout. The St. George North by-election was one in which voter turnout went down. So the question is, will the voter turnout go down as well on this occasion? I think I'm also looking to see whether the level of engagement is different. And certainly when you looked at the campaign, I mean, this was a more traditional hype in terms of the campaign on this occasion than was the case in the last two, which would have been St. George North and then the National. Of course, those were COVID elections. So this is really the first post-COVID election that we get a chance to see the political parties back to the old self, so to speak. So I think that those would be the interest points. But in terms of the outcome, there's no reasonable expectation that the independent candidates will do well. I think we have to see how the DLP does. But again, the expectation is that the seat will continue to be a BLP seat.
So would you say that the outcome will be a strong indication of people's perception of the government's overall performance?
Well, this is a gauntlet that was thrown down by the opposition Democratic Labour Party, and they indicated that it would be a referendum on the performance of the government. In my view, that was odd messaging, because it's a situation in which the Barbados Labour Party is likely to win. So I'm anxious to see the extent to which the messaging continues for the Democratic Labour Party, and if they accept that it is an assessment of population's views. So if the Barbados Labour Party wins, it means that people are happy. My inclination is that it does not necessarily mean that people are all happy, but certainly this is the perception that has been put forward by the Democratic Labour Party, and I think that it is perhaps not the most wise presentation. But yes, a by-election is usually a general indicator of how people feel, but I think we have to look at things like turnout and certainly the size of the margin that if it is maintained previously.
So you said the Dems shaped it as how people feel about the government. Can you also look at it on the other side? While, as you said, the thought process is not that the DLP will win, but can you look at it as how people think about or how people see the DLP as progressing into rebuilding? Yeah,
I mean, that's an interesting argument, whether you can say that the converse, whether it is an assessment of the Democratic Labour Party, and certainly it's something I didn't think about, but yes, this will be the first chance for the new opposition leader to demonstrate what he's made of. So I think people will look to see Ralph Thorne, how they perform. To me, there was some disappointment that the campaign for the Democratic Labour Party did not have familiar faces up until the last. Certainly some of the faces that we've associated were not there. So I think there's a level of interest in knowing how he will perform as leader of the opposition. So from that perspective, yes, you get that balance that has come forward.
In one of our earlier stories in the earlier block tonight, you heard a young lady who is a mother who said she would not normally come out, but she's thinking of the election in terms of the future for her children. Put that up against what you said earlier, the turnout in the St. George North election wasn't that good. Another man tonight said, if you don't vote, you really don't have a say in what's happening. What do you think that's saying about how Bajans are feeling about elections and their duty to come out and vote?
Well, certainly the response from the mother is consistent with what I have learned to expect. I've done a lot of work on gender, and the reality is that when a person becomes a mother or a parent, invariably they are more keen and interested in the political process. So essentially she was reflecting what I know to be the case. So a person who is a woman who is not a mother is less likely to vote than a woman who is a mother. And that's her expectation. The older persons tend to vote, so certainly the older people who spoke said what I would have expected them to say, that it is a duty, it's a responsibility. First person in line was 80-something years old. Again, that's entirely normal. So I think that that's the kind of voting behavior. A lot of us are concerned about low voter turnout. I would say that the low voter turnout has to be set against the reality that the number of people registered in each constituency are not likely to be the number of people who can vote because they're not available for different reasons. We actually got some data from this last election that we have over 2,000 people who are registered that are not able to vote because they've either moved, died, or are resident overseas for some reason. And I think that that helps us to understand that there may be concerns on the ground about participation levels, but certainly the reality is that people are interested and keen of voting based on what you were hearing just now as well from people.
Finally, and it has to be very quickly because we have to wrap up, do you think the two candidates who are not from major parties will have any impact on the election?
I think they probably will give DLP supporters that are not excited something to think about. Normally we expect a split vote to impact on the DLP, so I think that if anything they will have an impact on the DLP's turnout. That would be my sense.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Political analyst Peter Wickham joining us live on set. And of course, Peter, you will be on set when we do the election.
That's right.
Later on.
From 8 o'clock.
From 8 o'clock.
From 8 o'clock.
Yeah, so we will have Peter back on with Teacher Hines, I think, will be the person hosting that show.